And it looks like we are live. I just need to wait for a minute for the stream to kick in. And I'm going to say hello to my sister in the chat. And hello to I'm Hungry Now. That's Allie. So it looks like something is happening here. Here we are. And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Star Lordess Podcast. How's everyone doing tonight on this beautiful Sunday evening, afternoon, depending upon where you are in the world? For some of you, it's the middle of the night. Are you excited for tonight's show? I certainly am. We have really great guest coming on tonight. Dr.Suzana Flores. She will be joining us from New Orleans live. And we're going to be talking about her book, The Untamed Heart, as well as she's an established author, as well as clinical psychologist and speaker. She's been on TED Talks. Yeah, very, very cool. I forgot to put the link in the description box. She does have a YouTube channel, so maybe one of the mods out there can add it. I meant to add it before the live stream started, but I didn't get a chance to. Yeah, you'll definitely want to be. She has a website. She's on TikTok, Instagram. She's all over the place. She'll be joining us shortly. In the meantime, how's everyone doing? Hello, Dusty Flats. Hello, Allie. You lost your voice? What happened there? Oh my goodness. April? Hey, April. I'm glad you could join us tonight. And Amanda, nice. Nice to see you here. Nice to see all of my friends in the chat here. Just a reminder to behave yourself. This is a live stream. We have a no nonsense policy here. Nobody try and get cheeky with anyone, because my mods are the best mods in the business, and they'll make sure that you get bounced out if there's any shenanigans going on here. So how y'all doing on this Sunday? How's the weather where you are at? Ninja, how's the weather in California? Okay, our guest should be joining us shortly, and I'm very excited to be introducing you all to her. Susanna's been a friend of mine for a few years now, and really enjoy her. I enjoy my conversations with her all the time, so I'm sure you will find her very entertaining and informative. Oh, so the weather is beautiful in California. Nice, Ninja. Thank you for the weather update in Cali. Where are the rest of you from? Well, I know, Allie, you're in California as well. Dusty Flats, how is the weather where you are? Till tomorrow. What's going on, Allie? Linda from Ireland. Hey, welcome, Linda from Ireland. Did you happen to catch our St. Patrick's Day celebration live here last Sunday? We had such a great time. Anyway, heads up, guys. Our guest is now ready to join us. She's in the waiting room. Please help me in welcoming Dr. Suzana Flores from live from New Orleans. And here she is. Hello, Susie.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing, sweetie?
I'm doing really well, thank you.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for
And
having me.
I'm asking everybody in the chat, how's the weather in New Orleans tonight?
It's not bad. You know what? Our weather has bipolar disorder, right? So like, I have put away my summer and winter clothes like back and forth all the time. It's like the most unpredictable weather I've ever lived in. And
Really?
so it's like nice and sunny, or at least that's what the forecast says. And then it's torrential rain, like in an hour. I feel very bad for the meteorologists. Like they can't keep up. So it's okay. But who knows what we'll get tomorrow?
Yeah, exactly, right? And is it always like that, or is just this year it's different?
It is always like that. Last summer, I don't know if any of your guests are from New Orleans, but they know, right? Or
Mhm.
Louisiana. Last
Okay.
summer was something very brutal,
Uh,
very brutal, and we're supposed to. It's supposed to get hotter this summer. I can't even wrap my head around that. And I don't know whose bright idea it was to build a city in a swamp,
yeah,
right? But that's basically what we have. But I love it. I love New Orleans.
I
Love
know.
everything about it.
You love it there so much. You just got back from Mexico, didn't you?
Yes, I got back from Mexico City. I was there for 3 weeks with my mom on business, and
Right.
it was shockingly warm over there too.
Really?
So I just don't know anymore. I pack everything when I pack. So
And by the way, I love the photos and video you sent me from Mexico City. It just looked like an awesome, awesome time. How's your
it,
mother
it
doing? Is she
She's doing well. She's doing well. She and I luckily like got a few moments to go out and actually see like the National Museum of Anthropology and
Mhm.
Coyoacan and so many other beautiful. Mexico City is so beautiful, and so like
Yeah.
I think it was just some time that we needed for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
We got to mom and daughter time, so we
Nice.
had a good time. So she's doing okay. Thank you for asking.
Uh, that's awesome. Glad to hear. So she's back in Chicago now and settled in.
She is back in Chicago facing that weather.
Yeah,
And,
right.
I think we came
By-
back to like 40 degrees, and I am born and raised south side of Chicagoan, and I love Chicago. Will always have my heart. Very proud Chicagoan, but it's freaking cold. It way too
oh,
cold,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I just had it. I just had it. I couldn't do it. I'm like not doing it anymore.
And the summer's very hot there, I remember.
The summers are pretty
It
hot.
was,
Nothing compared to the NOLA, New Orleans, but it can get up there as well.
yeah. South side of Chicago always reminds me of Bad Bad Leroy Brown.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, last time I took my boyfriend Rue, like we were trying to find all the Blues Brothers spots because he loves that movie. Of course, I love that movie.
Yeah.
So it's like I know the church, I know the 95th Street Bridge where they crossed out, they jumped over. I know it all. So yeah, that was my hood. That was my neighborhood.
Oh, for sure. I just want to take a moment to welcome Susanna, or not Susanna, but Susan Fabian. She's a woman I just met last week into the chat here. So, anyway, Susie, can you sort of, you have such an interesting background in therapy as well as you're
Mhm.
an author, The Untamed Heart. Do you have a copy of that book?
Untamed, yes, I
Untamed?
do.
Yeah.
So it is
The-
Untamed:
oh,
The Psychology of
oh,
Marvel's Wolverine.
I keep thinking it's Untamed Heart, but it might as well be, right? Now,
Might as well. He was a lover boy, so yes, there is a lover boy.
I have a lot of questions about that. I mean, we've known each other for quite some time now. I've known about the book and everything, but I'm just really curious. How did you connect to
Mm,
Wolverine and the whole Marvel thing? Like, how did that happen?
Well, that's a very interesting story because ask me 20 years ago, I would have never imagined myself writing about a short, surly, hairy,
Right?
little anti-hero from Marvel.
Mm,
So the way that it began, like I've been a trauma therapist for 25 plus years,
mm,
aging myself now, and I unfortunately experienced my own trauma at one point, and it was very bizarre because like there is no, this too shall pass. Like I never even really understood exactly what that meant. Like what does that mean? Like trauma has a way of sneaking up on you sometimes, right?
mm,
And like you can have all of the skills in the world, right, to cope with it,
right.
but it levels you. emotionally, mentally, psychologically, and it feels like you're a prisoner in your own mind many times. And so I went into like this darkness right after the trauma, just trying to cope, not just with what I went through, judgment from others. There was a court issue. It was a long story, but it took everything out of me at one point. I didn't even recognize myself. I was staring
Wow.
at the mirror, and I was like, that light that one has in one's eyes. Any person with trauma could relate. When you look at photographs, when you're traumatized, your eyes look almost dead
Dead.
or dark. And so I didn't recognize myself. And I remember one day I was looking in the mirror. I'm like, where did I go? I was no more. And I needed a way out. And I came across one day, oddly enough, a comic book store, and I saw a panel from one of the Wolverine comics. And he is beaten in battle, right? He's been plunged into the sewer,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, like his claws come out, right? It's like, and
Mhm.
they make a little noise, sneaked, right? And then he says, "Okay, suckers, now it's my turn."
Yeah.
And then he went all Mount St. Helens on his enemies, like just tore them apart, basically.
Mm.
And it was at that moment where I thought, I want that.
Mhm.
Like that was me. Like I was there at that moment in that sewer, and I wanted to like fight back. I wanted to fight back, and metaphorically, like people are thinking like, oh, who's the savior, the superhero? That would be Superman,
Right.
quite essentially, right? I wanted Wolverine because he looked like he could seriously cause some damage, and that was part of the anger in me.
Oh.
And since then, I have a new relationship with anger. I think anger is a call to action. Anger lets you know that sometimes things are not okay, and that we have to get angry because we have to fight back in some respect or another. And so that's what I did. And so I connected with him, and I had really good friends that helped guide me in the comic book world. I'm like, I want to know more about this little character, and so I dove deep. Luckily, with help. I was able to get the good issues. And I have never been a comic book reader in my entire life. I'm a new geek, but
Wow.
it was like an obsession. I could not stop. And once I read his backstory, I said, this little character, like he is PTSD personified. He's very angry. He's very surly. He's been experimented on, and he keeps people at bay, and he tries to get close, but it's a trauma defense. So that's how it kind of began. Like I
So
just related to him.
it sounds like you identified fully with this character. You felt
Yes.
like I'm him. He's me. Really?
Yes. You know what? It felt like he was my new best friend. Like he would defend me, right?
Right.
And so from that moment, once I started digging and digging, I said, "This is a person with PTSD," and
Mm.
you begin to realize that comic books are just modern mythology, right? There's symbolism in everything,
Right.
and it talks about the human experience. And so, yeah, he became my person and started writing, and I just pretended he was a real person in my office. Like, how would I analyze him? So it took, in all aspects, romantic, his friends, his enemies, the Weapon X program where he was experimented on, which I say is a form of assault, and how he tries to cope, even like dissociative amnesia, where his brain is protecting him from trauma, he forgets. We go through that too. It's actually called dissociative amnesia, where your brain is like, you remembered enough, you don't need to remember all of the details. So I interviewed the writers and the creators, and I do want to share this. So there was Len Wein was one of the creators, and he asked like, so why Wolverine?
Mm.
And I said, well, someone already wrote something on Batman, and so like maybe I wanted to do Marvel's, like Wolverine, because he's the next popular. And he's like, that's wonderful. Now, why Wolverine?
Mhm.
And I it just again leveled me, and it's like because of pain. It was because of pain, and his character also has physical pain. So people with chronic pain. I'm a chronic pain sufferer as well. So it's like the writers are channeling, and the artists for that matter, are channeling their own pain through their interpretations of these characters.
Yeah.
It's a
That's
cool world.
Yeah,
Very cool world.
it's so awesome. Thank you for explaining that because, like I said, I've been aware of this for a long time, and I think it's been a passing thought every time. It's like, what's the basis for this whole Wolverine thing?
Mhm,
Because he's not like a
mhm,
main Marvel character, but he is known. But it's just like, yeah, and when you actually know, like I watch all the Marvel movies, so I know the backstories to all of these characters. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense what you just said. It's incredible the way that you connected to that character and sort of almost became him.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yes,
Ah,
yes, and despite it all, beside aside from like being practically enslaved and going through all these wars, he like lives forever, right? So he has a long history, and the thing is, he keeps trying to be a better man, right? So he got into martial arts, and he has mentors and stuff. So he keeps trying, despite losing memory and despite not being able to develop that part. Like, who are you if you don't have memory, right? Like, how
nice.
can you, continuously develop or so. But despite his challenges with that, he kept trying.
Mm,
So it was a matter of I just needed to get mad. I needed to get angry, And then one day, one person, we've all been there, said something stupid, right?
right?
And
Boom.
again, we've all been there, right? And that little light bulb
Right?
above our forehead goes
Right?
like, "Zzz," right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, it's on,
Yeah.
right? And at that point, I remember I went off like I never went off before, saw red, and after that, I felt amazing. Like I felt amazing. The depression, anxiety, fear was like instantly lifted. And I was like, no, like, you know what? This is not mine to carry, and I will not be silenced. And you know what? Like, I am going to let you have it. And, and that was a big part of this for me is like, when there is an injustice, you
Mhm.
know, when someone is being treated unfairly or discriminated against, or
Mm,
whatever the case may be, it's like we cannot be silenced. And
true.
that in that is our power, and we discover who we are and what we're really made of.
Very true. And I can totally relate to you on the whole injustice thing. Like, I get to the point of where it feels like my head's going to pop off when meet with really extreme injustice. I'm like, this is not fair. Whether it's me or somebody else, I can just lose it completely when it comes to injustice. Just like, that's not fair. That doesn't make any sense. Why is this happening in the first place? So I think that's
The thing
why
is,
you and I
once
get
you let
along.
it out, it feels better, though, right?
Yeah. You
But
and I get along so
eventually,
well, we're kind of two peas in the pod. We've talked about, that intense feeling before,
oh
and
yeah, and
yeah,
that's a part of who we are, and we have to be okay. Like we have to befriend our anger, like our anger, just like any other emotion. It wants to be heard. Like knock, knock, knock. Like there's something that's going on, and you might need to take care of business, right?
right.
And then once we do, and we channel that, in a positive way, then eventually we must release our anger. We have to release our anger,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Yeah.
a journey. It's a
Yeah.
journey for a lot of people.
So after you wrote the book, did you feel like a release? Did you feel like a weight has been lifted off your shoulder once the book?
It was a year worth of therapy for me, and especially like seeing his own journey. And the last movie was Logan. It was like a box office smash, and it was like a near end of life thing where he's contemplating life or death, or like
It was good.
and I don't know if you saw it, but it was a great
Yeah.
movie. But he meets his daughter, and in that, like he sees a
Yes.
sense of hope and movie, and he was able to connect in a human way, like even if it was for a few seconds,
Yeah.
right? But he was able to release his guard and just allow himself to feel,
Yeah, that
and
was a very
that's
powerful, powerful moment, and that's how you
yeah.
felt in a sense when you wrote the book.
Oh
That's
yeah, and when I was in the movie theater, I cried like a baby. Like I literally cried like a baby because to me, it's like I spent a year like pretending he was real, and I didn't need him to be real,
yeah,
but like it's what he represented to me.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. Like,
So,
that's just a little bit, like, out of the norm of, because I know you're a clinical psychologist and therapist, and so
mm,
it's a little bit out of the norm, but boy, does it work. It makes so much sense. At least to me, it makes total sense that, you would use a character like that, because I've done that myself too, to try to make sense of things sometimes. It's like I pick a person, fictitious person, could be Star-Lord from Marvel, and I just, can identify with that character and so forth. Whether it doesn't matter whether they're real or not. It's about the connection, right? It's all about
Exactly.
connection. Yeah.
It
Wow.
really is. And
Yeah.
since that time, now I present at Comic Cons. And
Yeah.
so, like, we talk about, like, villains or supervillains or, like, anti heroes or heroes, like the mythology
Yeah.
of the characters. And that's what it really is. Again, they represent the human experience, much like tarot can, right? Like, there's a lot of symbolism in the tarot. And so, yeah, Carl Jung was, a fan of, all of that, a psychoanalyst, very, very famous psychoanalyst. And, so he studied the stars, he studied everything, and it's just like there's the collective unconscious, there's, where we relate on a super big level or a connection to everything in the universe and everyone else. And then on a micro level of ourselves, right? And so it's again, it's just a part of the journey, and these levels of symbolism can
Yeah.
really help us to connect. And who hasn't seen a movie where they're like, I can connect to that character, or I know how that feels, like
Oh,
I was there.
absolutely, absolutely. I think that's why we love movies the way that we do. There are certain movies that
Mhm.
resonate for certain people, and they're just like, I really. It's like if you ask them, why do you love that movie? It's because I can really connect with that character, right? And
Yes.
and that's why a lot of people, I think, go through a range of emotions when they're watching movies or shows that really connect with them. They'll end up like crying their eyes out or getting really angry in the middle of the movie
Mhm.
because they're
Because they see themselves there, and you feel the
absolutely,
compassion or so,
yes,
but
absolutely,
It's
and
it's
yes,
been it's a journey I would have never imagined myself on, but I'm very, very grateful, and it's interesting, like, although we all wish that we had the magic wand and we didn't have our traumatic experiences, they do change and mold us, and it's not about like it made me stronger, again, that's another little phrase. It's like, well, it's kind of like I had to be, to go through, like the depths of your soul to fight your way out, and
right,
and as I said, like you discover who you really are and how tough you really are. And for many people, it's still an ongoing journey.
right,
Will always still be a journey, and that's okay. Healing is a part of journey, part of it.
exactly. It is part of the journey. It takes other people longer, it takes other people
Hmm.
shorter, and unfortunately, some people can't do it at all. They end up collapsing under the pressure and giving into whatever. But I guess that's just the world we live in, and it's so what you do is so fantastic. I'm very happy that you wrote the book and that you are who you are and you put yourself out there so that other people can understand, because there's so many people around the world going through this kind of stuff and they really really need help. YouTube and social media now has given people an like when we were younger, we didn't have that option, right? To watch somebody
Hmm.
on YouTube. There wasn't TED Talks and things like that. But now we can at least, listen to somebody else who's been through it. Gives you hope. It gives you ideas. You know what I mean? You can read books and things like that. So, it's I'm really grateful that yourself and other people like you have put it out there for the rest of us to be able to kind of make sense of this crazy world and our own crazy emotions, right? I mean, it's our emotions, I think, and navigating that is probably the craziest part of the world we live in. The world we live in is what it is, but it's our emotions and trying to, like you said, our trauma and everything, and trying to navigate through that can make it really difficult. Even simple situations, they can become difficult for people who are suffering with mental health.
Absolutely. And
You know?
it's, yeah, thank you for saying that. And one of the most fulfilling parts of this is meeting people at my signing desk at Comic Cons. And
Mhm.
there was this one particular moment where there was a gentleman, and he was standing a little bit at a distance. So he didn't want a book signed, right? But he was just kind of staring for a little bit. And something told me, like, I think maybe I should just come out of my little signing table there, just go around to meet him. And after a long pause, he said, "What happened to you happened to me, and it happens to men too." See, and even right now, I'm going to get like a bit emotional. And so he hugged, I hugged, we both cried,
Oh my,
and it was an incredible connection.
I
And
can,
minimal words, and
yeah,
yet, we were able to connect even on a level of pain. So he said, "Thank you for writing this book. It really helped me." And
see, that's what I'm
and uh,
about.
and again, we wish we had the magic wand to make this all go away,
Mhm.
but we learn so much about ourselves and others in
Right.
a way that we never would have without some
Right.
level of pain or suffering to give
It's
that experience.
It's very true. A lot of people connect through pain. You see it in therapy groups and, these AA groups and stuff like that. A lot of people make serious connections because they're bearing their soul to each other at a time. And,
Yes,
and there's such a connection because they understand that other people are going through this and they're not the only one. Tony, my husband, producer, and I are musicians, and we wrote a song many years ago called "I Thought I Was the Only One." And when I played it for people, they were just like, "Oh my god, I thought I was the only one to ever feel this way." And it was like it connected to a lot of people because I think when we're going through our trauma and things like that, sometimes we feel shame, we feel like we need to hide it, and we feel like other people won't understand. And then when you find out other people went through it, it's like, oh,
yes,
right?
yes.
It's
Many
like
times, group
it's so
therapy can be way more powerful than even
right.
individual therapy because of
It's
that level of
super,
connection.
yes, it's super powerful and super empowering to people. So, and especially when you look at someone like yourself who went through trauma, is now living a very, very successful life and a happy life. So it gives people inspiration, right? As well, because they go, if you can do it, I can do it, right?
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. I hope so.
yeah, for sure. And I've seen the photos that you post on Instagram from Comic Con and stuff like that. It's really cool. I encourage any of you in the chat here to definitely go and visit Susanna's um, Instagram. Follow her on Instagram for sure. She's always posting some really cool inspirational stuff as well as really cool photos from all over the place, as well as the Mardi Gras, right?
Yeah, Mardi Gras is a lot of fun.
The
It's a
Mardi
it's a
Gras,
beast. It's a
it
beast,
already
but it's
passed,
it's
right,
but
in February. When is the Mardi Gras in New Orleans? February?
It's usually, well, it depends on like the calendar. It's like the month or so before Lent, right? And
Oh,
so that's kind of the whole point. Like Fat Tuesday is like the day to party like a rock star before you
yeah.
give something up, right? According to Catholicism. Right? So it runs a few weeks before then. So it could be.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. That's very oh, yeah, for sure. It's just fun to just be able to dress up and just do whatever. You know what else I'm really interested in is the therapy you and I discussed the last time we
Mhm.
talked. I am so stoked about that, and we really do need to hook up, you and I, because I am interested in doing this therapy with you because you do it remotely as well. But I'm just going to take a
Mhm.
break. We're at that halfway mark that I mentioned. So, do you have the chat in front of you?
I do. I
Okay.
do. I do.
So if any of you in the audience in the chat here would like to ask Susanna a question or say anything to her, now's a good time to do it. Most of you in the chat already already know the drill. So go ahead, fire away. I will be back in like 2 minutes. Okay.
trauma, specifically trauma therapy. It works on brain mechanisms and release of trauma. So, for example, our brains are very main image or representation that it has. So if I say breathe into your anxiety and breathe it out, that might relax you, but it doesn't do a whole lot for the brain in terms of release of trauma. But here's where it gets weird, because the brain is weird, but this is where it gets weird. If you give your anxiety a color, so let's say red, then the brain can. So it's a visualization breathing technique where someone identifies a moment, a traumatic memory, and then identifies the emotion associated to that memory, rate it 0 to 10, and things in their chest or their abdomen involves. It is the lightest form of trauma work. And then what I do is I take over for the rest of the session where with a client's eyes closed, they're breathing, they're just following my lead. We are systematically removing that color from different parts of the brain and the body because once the brain registers like black equals fear, then we have to turn off this notion of like fear. It won't work if you're trying to get rid of fear. It's too abstract for the brain. But the brain is able to remove it through the representation of the color. And when clients open their eyes, most people feel a little disoriented, lighter, not sure why. And we ask, like, is that memory as charged as it was before? Most people report like a confused no. And then we rate the emotion again, 0 to 10. And most people end up at drastically reduced. So, like if you were 9 out of 10 anxiety, you end up at a 4 out of 10 easily, or even a zero, even in one session. So, my sessions are designed, 8 sessions or less, because it's not that often that we would need more than 8, because the brain is very powerful and it's kind of healing itself, so to speak. It's kind of recalibrating itself. And so when people get to zero, they just can't believe it. And once we get that number as close to zero as possible, then we have to, we call deconstruction of the image. So we have to destroy those images because when we're talking about our trauma, we have these little visuals, little mini videotape in our heads where we see scenes of the trauma. And so the images more than anything are the things that cause us like to shudder, right? And the reason we remove trauma from all parts of the body is just parts of your brain, like everywhere, your chest, your heart, your abdomen, all parts of the spine, etc. Because trauma does get trapped in the body. And so where I was going, okay, so once we get to that point where people begin to feel less symptomatic, then we destroy the image. Now that one's a little harder to describe, but the best And so let's say you slip and fall, and all the pieces scatter all over the floor. The brain can only do one or two things at the same time. It can see the completed image, or it sees the scattered pieces on the ground. It can't do both. So that's kind of what we do with the images. We um, you'll have memory of it, right? We don't give you a lobotomy or anything, right? You'll have memory of what happened, but you won't be able to see it as clearly. And you're detached from the emotional reaction related to that trauma. And you get both of those, and then, you're not, most people end up with like zero PTSD at the end. So we always check again, like, okay, are you still having flashbacks, nightmares, etc.? And once we get both of those things done, people feel significantly better. So I love this form of therapy, and when I discovered it, I gave up doing. It's just a professional choice for me. I ended up giving up talk therapy because I have never seen anything work as fast as this. Never.
Yes.
Um, Incredibly fast. Is it? You know, do we have time? Like, I just want to share my experience with it, so it seems like a little less mysterious.
Absolutely. No, we have as much time as you have. No, we're in no hurry here. We just, like
Okay.
to go with the flow over here. But no, I'm very interested in what you had to say. I know we talked a little bit about it, and it sounds incredible. You mentioned that you're having great success with it. So I'm so
Yes,
even.
yes. It's like instant gratification to see people feel like, oh, freedom, like finally, like it's just gone. And that's what it feels like. Most people feel like indifferent. Like if you were guilty, you don't even feel guilty about feeling guilty. You're just like, it's just not there.
Mhm.
Like 30 minutes or less. That's how much we had to be the patient, right? And so that's should be part of the training. And I think at the time I was dealing with guilt. I don't even remember what it was, but I'm like guilt, and I'll give it green. I gave it green for some reason, and I said, okay, this is the weirdest thing I ever heard of, but trust the process. Let's do it. Closed my eyes. Person me through the whole thing, removing guilt, 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 and then I opened my eyes and I give the look that most people give, like a disoriented, like what just happened.
Yeah.
And so then she asked me, is it as charged? And I was like, no. And she said, 0 to 10 guilt. Where are you at? And I paused and I said, give me a moment. And I was, okay, I understand the concept of guilt. I understand the definition of guilt. I just don't see how that applies to me. And then I was like, what the hell did you just do to me? Like I was like, what just happened? And
Uh,
it is that fast. And it's incredible. And then so the person took me to destroy the image related to it. And to this day I can't see it. I remember someone being like a jerk or whatever the case, right?
right.
But I don't see it, nor do I care. And it's freedom. Because although talk therapy definitely has its place, you learn coping mechanisms, you learn how to perceive it in a different way, how to process it, and many times people have to do that first, before they're ready for the release or so.
Mhm.
But with image transformation therapy, it's more about getting rid of it. It's more about like freeing individuals in a very short period of time without having to over and over. Like it works for some people, but sometimes talk therapy doesn't work for others. Sometimes it could, bring stuff up that and make it worse. And so, but I've just had a lot of success with it. It even works in helping to alleviate chronic pain.
Wow.
Believe it or not,
That's huge.
even some
That's
phobias.
huge.
I've worked with individuals with
Yeah.
phobias, and I'm like, wow, I just love it. I love it. I could do it all day, which I do.
It's
Actually.
incredible. Like you mentioned that it's so much better than talk therapy. I think we discussed this before about the whole I know people, everybody knows people who've been in therapy, talk therapy for like years and years. It doesn't do much.
Hmm.
Maybe it helps a little bit, but it sounds like what you're doing now is incredible. Like how long did these sessions last? Are they like a half hour or
It's about like 45 minutes on average. And so, the beginning part is just like me kind of off of what the technique looks like and what to expect. Um, Exploring possible barriers to release. Sometimes people aren't ready. Like let's say it's a
yeah,
breathing
sense. Yeah.
issue or something like, and so I do warn people like whatever image you give me, you have to really be prepared to lose it, right? Because
Right.
once it's gone, it's kind of gone. Even if you really try to bring it back, it's kind of gone. Sometimes there are some barriers, sometimes not.
Right.
I disagree if we tell individuals like, look, you have many other beautiful memories of this person. You don't need this particular one,
I know.
right? Nor would this person want you to hold on.
It sounds so incredible. When you first told me about it a few months back, I was just like, I want to try it. I have a phobia I would like to get rid of, and it sounds perfect, and I'm so excited about it. Would you describe the technique a little bit like hypnosis? Like, do you put people under or no?
Nope, nope, nope. Everyone is
Oh,
completely conscious. Again, all it is, it's someone seated. Most of the time seated. Some people prefer to stand. But you're in the comfort of your own home. It's virtual, obviously. Your eyes are closed and you're just hearing my voice. And you're just following my lead. We're removing red from the right side of the brain, from the left side of your brain, from your eyes, your throat, your
Uh,
voice. Sometimes, let's say it's narcissistic abuse, right? If anyone's been in a narcissistic relationship, right? It's like you don't have a
yeah.
voice. So I found trauma can really be trapped in those individuals who've been in a narcissistic kind of relationship, friendship, romantic, etc. There's a lot of stuff usually in the voice and the throat. Sometimes
Oh,
many times in the
yeah.
skin is your
You're
support.
freezing up a little bit. So,
Sorry.
It's the feed from the state.
oh. So we're yeah, yeah. It's just you keep freezing up. Did someone in the chat say?
It's the feed from the states.
Oh, okay. Hello? Are you yeah. Seems like no, it seems like you're talking and then all of a sudden it cuts out, but they're saying in the chat it's the feed from the US. No, it's
Oh,
just the internet,
it's the internet.
interference, but no, I mean, we'll just keep talking. I had a guest on from Arizona a couple weeks ago, and this happened to constantly, but he was off the grid, so I guess that made sense, but yeah, it happens, as long as you can keep talking and we can hear you, so, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, like, it is a fascinating form of therapy. It is not hypnosis.
Okay.
It's not hypnosis.
It's guided almost. Like I do a lot of guided meditation where you just sort of sit there, close your eyes, and then the person talks. So it sounds more like that, maybe. You think?
It's closer than
Okay.
hypnosis, right? It's still not a
Yeah.
meditation. Meditation again, like with the meditation, you still kind of have to go kind of deep,
Right.
right? And you yeah, I guess it's
Yeah.
closer. Right? You're listening to a voice, but specifically, what it is, the brain is removing the emotion attached to the trauma through the representation of color. And I tell all my clients, like, this is the weirdest thing that you've ever heard of. It was the weirdest thing that I ever heard of. And I was like, what? Color, particles, what? Like, what are you talking? Like, what? But it's true. A color is more concrete for the brain
It's true.
versus
Sense that
anxiety.
does sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the brain can, so to speak, see it leave. It
Right.
sees it leaving the right side of the brain, the left side. If someone saw a trauma,
Right.
many times there's stuff in the back of the brain.
Uh-huh.
Because and when I do this, sometimes I can see people doing this, like as they're imagining, like the colors leaving one side of the brain, and it usually tells me that's where a lot of stuff is, right?
Oh,
Because even
so
the body, our
they
body sends
lean,
us messages too.
like they
Yeah, they
lean.
lean. They lean to one side,
Mhm.
or they or their bodies. We see sometimes like a dip, like their whole bodies like feel like
Okay.
they're falling down. That's usually like in the spinal area. If there was a lot of stuff back there, and there can be, right?
Mm.
Your spine is your support column,
True that. Yeah. Absolutely.
literally, metaphorically, right? And so sometimes when there's a lot of trauma, there could be stuff in the back.
I've
It's
had
not a
I've suffered from back problems my entire yeah, like from the time I was in my 20s throughout my whole life. I've had severe back problems. And I've always suspected it was from trauma. So I wonder, yeah, I wonder if that's
A few times, some individuals would say they feel better even with their back after image transformation therapy. And as mentioned, like there's a protocol to use for chronic pain as well.
Mhm.
And I've been encouraging all of my therapists and psychologists, social worker friends to get trained in it because um, it's just wow. I can't say enough about it. I'm grateful that I found the technique, and it has been very fulfilling as a clinician to see individuals say, like, I've been suffering with this for 40 years, and all of a sudden I just don't care. Like, it's just gone.
And
So,
how long have you been using this technique?
let's see, a few years now, a couple of years now. I just, like I said, I wish I knew of it before, but it wasn't invented until 2016,
Oh,
but um, yeah, when I treat someone with military related trauma, especially
mhm,
like let's say someone was in Vietnam or so,
right.
and they say, like, why didn't this exist sooner? Like, I could have had a life, I could have whatever. And I'm like, the point is, is that you have freedom now,
Yeah.
right? It didn't exist. It just didn't. We don't have a time, like we can't do
Exactly.
anything about that. But the point is, you can leave that pain in this office, right? Leave it here and then shut that door and go live your life.
Wow. Like that sounds like a miracle cure. It really does, you know. And that well, we develop new things as we go along all the time, and you know,
Hmm.
eventually we get to the point where we're just so used to using these new uh, techniques in your case, and then they just become common and everybody's using them. But I mean, there has to be a start point, right? And then there has to be somebody like you that goes out there and actually uses this and helps people, and then through word of mouth it gets out there, and then eventually everybody's using it, which is really good. It seems like you're always on the outer skirts of the therapy. You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You're
I
always
do.
it's like you're doing the work that you do because you're trained as a clinical psychologist, but you always find this sort of off-road almost to bring it in and to make it uniquely yours and to bring new aspects to things. So I really like that about you. I mean, it's
Thank
really
you.
you know.
The thing is that everybody's experience is unique, and some things are not explainable by science, right?
True.
And so there's stuff out there that I don't know about. Like, so when someone says I've had this experience, I'm like, who am I to say that you didn't,
True.
right? And so we have to listen to every individual, and
Open mind. Open mind.
there it is. That's what I was looking for, and have an open mind.
You have to have an
Um,
and you
right.
do. That's why I think you find these sort of off-roads because you do have such an open mind, you know?
Thank you. I found that a use of humor, especially when it comes to trauma, really helps.
Yes.
One thing I say to people, like if you've dealt with a narcissist or a very troublesome individual, right,
Mhm.
and your healing comes when you finally shut that door, right?
Yeah,
You've taken it and you've taken it and you've taken some more, psychological beatings or so, but there comes that point, that beautiful, magical point, right? I live for hearing these points
mhm.
where someone, I'm sure I can't curse in here, but like they get to that point where they're like like f you and definitely you, right? That's the moment where that door is shut.
Yeah.
Okay, now that door isn't just shut,
Yeah.
it is like sealed shut. It is boarded shut. It's welded shut. There's flamethrowers, right?
Yeah.
There's guard dogs, right? There's a moat with a shark
Yeah.
surrounding the door, right? Nothing is going to get through that door. Like
Yeah.
someone is done. That's when they're done. And that is like another way of healing the trauma when you realize like certain higher standards for yourself, right? I choose me, meaning these are my three favorite higher standards we've come up with in therapy. Number one, I choose me. That means no person or no situation is worth my mental health. I
True.
don't care if it's your mother, brother, father, sister, best friend of 30 years, whatever. Like if someone is toxic,
Yeah.
toxic is toxic, they got
Yeah.
to go.
Yeah.
Or you got to distance yourself as much as humanly possible because, or this job is killing you. And notice I'm not using the word easy with
Yeah.
any of this, right? But
Mhm.
sometimes it's like, I got to choose me, or I got to choose me and my family for those with children or so. Like, I choose me and my kids. The
Absolutely.
next one is equal effort only. We do not extend more effort than other people do in our lives. Now, obviously, there's always exceptions to the rules. I'm not saying like you didn't help me with this, so I don't help you. I'm talking about patterns.
Right.
Even in text messages, for example, right? If you notice more blue and green on one side than the other person, it's okay. People get busy, but it's time to back off a little bit, right?
Right.
We don't extend more. And sometimes when we do back off a little bit, then other people begin to approach. So
Right.
it's kind of like a little dance. You're protecting your own energy,
It's balance.
and it's
Okay.
balance. Everything is balance. And the last one is I will not be disrespected or undervalued. Period. I always ask people to put like dash, the word period, exclamation point. Under any circumstance will I allow anyone to disrespect or undervalue me.
Absolutely. Those are great points. And when it comes to the you and I have spoke extensively about the narcissistic stuff before, and I think I told you once upon a time that when I was watching um, this fellow who's a professor, it was like a 2 hour lecture, and at the end of it, when he said, "You can't change the narcissist. There's nothing you can do."
Hmm.
It's not gonna change
Hmm.
ever, and
Hmm.
I remember that hitting me like a ton of bricks because
Hmm.
I'm like, "Wow." There's that moment when you realize sometimes there's nothing you can do in a relation,
No, no.
family, friend, whatever it is, there's absolutely nothing you can do. You can't change that person, so you're forced in that moment to realize you gotta give it up and just let it go because
Yeah.
there's
Yes.
I think we always try and change. Okay, if we love the person, it's like, no, there has to be something I can do, and we keep trying to change, and we keep forcing it only to end up in the same spot and disappointed over and over again. At a certain point you got to say, no, this isn't. But it hurts and it's hard. It's
It
really,
is
really
hard.
hard.
It is very, very hard.
Yeah.
But when an individual has like a diagnosable, like narcissistic
Yeah.
personality disorder, there is no changing them, right?
No. Yeah.
And every person again is unique. So it's like a spectrum. It's some people may have some traits, narcissistic
Right.
traits.
Yeah.
Other
That-
people,
yeah.
some people have healthy narcissism. Like I just got a promotion, I'm going to tell the world. That's
Yeah.
healthy narcissism, right? That's
Right,
like good. You
exactly.
feel
Oh,
good about yourself,
a
right?
full-blown narcissism, classic form
Right.
of
Yeah,
narcissism.
we're talking about like the toxic part, but it's just no, there is no changing because the majority of them, again, there's always differences, but the majority they lack um, compassion, they don't have empathy, and they
Mhm.
don't feel bad about anything that they do, right? So
Yeah,
if you're extremely self-serving
yeah,
and you don't care about how you're affecting other people emotionally, you can do whatever you want. If
yeah,
you think
sure,
about it, like you could be a dictator, you could,
yeah, yeah,
there is no
there's no
compassion and
yeah, there's no
nope.
boundary that you won't cross, and
Right.
therefore, it puts the person into victimhood, and so many people have been their lives have been disrupted and completely ruined in some cases by, trying to change the narcissist, the extreme narcissist.
Right.
You have to give it up, you have to walk away, but sometimes it's hard, if that's your partner or that's a family member or a close friend, it's very hard to admit that and just walk away because
Yes, you know what we tell people, it's like, and we have to say it on repeat, so because an individual will get programmed to accept pain from the narcissist.
True.
It's something called learned helplessness. Like we will stay confined um, when in an area, like even when we have an out, we will like psychologically stay confined
Right,
because the narcissists, they're master manipulators, master PhD and
right,
beyond level manipulators, and they will convince a person that they should not leave because it'll be worse, or
yes,
they isolate people. And there's so many different situations. But the thing to say that we say on repeat is it's not that he or she doesn't know what they're doing to you. They know what they're doing to you,
hmm,
they don't care. So
yes,
it's not that they don't know,
right,
they just don't care. And at worst, they enjoy it.
yeah,
So it's not, so that's usually what keeps people hooked. Like if he or she only knew, or I got to explain it in a different way, or I have to like do that. And it's like you are so wasting your time. And by you trying to change the narcissist or have these conversations on repeat over
right,
and over, like you're feeding their ego, right? Like even negative attention is attention to the narcissist. The
exactly,
narcissist only care about a few things:
hmm,
attention, power, and control,
right,
and that's it, and
hmm,
more of it, and that's pretty much it. So when
exactly,
people say like how do you beat a narcissist, it's like you go ice cold, right? You block everything, everything, right?
yeah,
Email, social media, phone, whatever, and that is the only way to win
yeah,
because any form of engagement usually it does not work.
hmm,
It doesn't work. You can't reason with someone who doesn't have empathy and who doesn't care.
exactly. And the thing is that there's a lot of empaths in the world. And when a narcissist gets a hold of an empath, they're going to always count on the fact that you're going to try and fix everything. And you're going to feel for them, and they're going to try and make you feel sorry for them. And then they're going to keep sucking you back, and around we go. Right. So
Right.
the only thing we can do is disassociate, disconnect, and unplug, and just not
Yeah.
engage as much as we may want to. Sometimes people, out of anger, when they look back
Mm,
and say, "Hey, you did this to me. I want to strike back." No point. No point. Just let it go and
no.
move on. Right?
Yeah, your win is focusing on you.
Yeah.
I want to be happy, right? You can think of me whatever you want. Go for it, right?
Yeah.
You can slander me whatever you want, and they will, and they will. Right?
Exactly.
And you focus on you rechannel that energy to people that actually deserve it, and that's where it's at.
That's 100%. I have a question for you. Since 2020, do you find that there's a lot more people with anxiety and mental health issues and so forth that have
You,
popped up since then? Has it increased?
no, I'm giggling out of yes.
Oh,
Okay. The reason I'm giggling is only because like probably even before. It's like since or a little before, a little bit after, especially since COVID. Since COVID happened, right? The psychological world has been flooded, like beyond flooded, even beyond our capacity. Like there's people on waiting lists or so, and the reason is because that's something called complex PTSD. Okay, PTSD is like a life-threatening event, or you seen or witnessing something horrible,
mhm,
and it is highly emotionally charged, and it's usually not logical. Like happening
right.
too fast, or it's not logical. Like my parents should not be abusing me. That is not logical, right? Complex PTSD is when we endure prolonged distress. So a good example would be like Hurricane Katrina for New
Right.
Orleans individuals, right? Hurricane Katrina's
Perfect
PTSD and
example.
the
Yeah.
aftermath is complex PTSD.
Mhm.
So dealing with a narcissist is complex PTSD. After 9/11, complex
Right.
PTSD. COVID-19, big time, right? All organisms on Earth are designed to handle short-term stress. So we can handle emergencies, right? We are not designed for something like that,
Exactly.
and so it threw everybody, into turmoil. So many divorces during that time. And now
Hmm.
you're stuck with someone in the household that, like it's a whole different dynamic. We're trying to talk people out of separations during that time. Like, wait, it might be this thing that's the big global thing that's happening. So I would send the world to therapy if I could right now. I'd
Yeah.
like time to heal, time to move forward. Yes, it's been difficult.
And do you find it, especially amongst younger people, because they were particularly traumatized, I think, by the whole 2020 situation, especially teenagers, ones in school. That was like you just took the world and,
Yeah,
put it up
sure.
down for them. So their mental health, even if they were sort of maybe okay before, do you find that a lot of them, it threw them over the edge into mental health crisis?
I would, yes, adults perhaps too. Believe it or not, like teenagers have social media and
Mm,
other forms of connection, right? And so, like again, I'm going to age myself right now, right? In my day, it was the mall, right? You go to the mall, or you go to the arcade,
yeah,
and everything is your peers. Everything was there. Nowadays, some teens can be in their room forever, and they feel very connected that way. So some cope better than others,
mhm,
but ultimately, even in terms of like our own development, we are social creatures, especially teenagers. Like they need interactions, just like all of us. So it was difficult for a lot of people.
yeah,
But again, it's a testimony to resiliency,
true.
is because that was the challenge to end all challenges. That was that
Right.
for many parts of the world, and we got through it, and still getting through it. It's still an active thing, but
Mhm.
um, I mean, the human spirit is very strong, and we
It's
find a way. And one of the ways we got through it together, like
Yeah,
forming little communities, reaching out to one another,
I
and such.
agree. I sometimes I wonder. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and I was saying, like, I wonder when I think back to 2020, it feels like people all across the globe, our relationships, everything was fractured so badly in a way that none of us alive today ever went through anything like this, where
Hmm.
fractured everybody against everyone and all of that stuff, that I was saying to my friend that I don't know honestly if we can ever put this back together again. It's like Humpty Dumpty. Like, can we put this back together again, in your opinion? Because the fracture seems to go so deep and so vast and so wide, all across, like, everybody. I mean, I deal with people all across the globe too, and everybody's got basically the same story about things that happened to them in 2020 and how their relationships have been fractured forever. And can we put this back together again? And what do you think it would take?
I wouldn't be a psychologist if I didn't believe that change was possible.
Mhm.
It is going to take time.
No.
We have to start having conversations with one another again. We have to be meeting in a place of a middle ground. We have to, a lot of it is going to be self care, realizing we are changed. I recall you saying, like, I'm never going to be the same. Yeah, you're right. You're never going to be the same. We are different now, and
Mhm.
life is different now. But all, even politically, I won't go there. I won't, right? But like, what I tell people is like, we gotta, in terms of getting to the middle ground, we
Mhm.
are all just trying to live better. We're trying to improve our lives in a better way. And sometimes, in terms of healing, even with the COVID or whatever is happening, like it's good to just take a break from the news, right? I just tell people, like, even whatever side you're on, I don't care, I don't need to know. But like, focus on you. Just focus on you. And if something's big enough, you're going to hear about it. It's okay to take breaks. And it's like, okay, I can't control what's happening out there, but I
Mhm.
can control what's happening here and in my immediate family. And so we're going to just focus on that for a while. Again, I choose me. There's a lot of craziness in the world. Yes, there is. There's a lot of craziness, and life is very hard. For many people that, especially like Americans, we weren't used to this level of hard. You know,
Absolutely.
like I would say, we've been a bit spoiled, or so. Like we've had things just not this hard, and they've been hard lately. But just like anything else, change is absolutely possible. I think it's just going to take time,
Do you
and we
feel?
start with kindness. We start with, can I just see a person as a person? Right? Instead of labeling them, can I just see them as another person who's just kind of, that they have their own struggles and their own traumas and their own pain and their own whatever, and they're just trying to do better too. So it starts, and it may sound a little cliche, right? But it is like, what little steps can I take to help improve someone's life? Maybe I can give 3 compliments a day.
Mhm.
Maybe I can do this. And that's where it all begins, is with the individual.
Do you feel that these relationships that between family members and close friends that got fractured really badly in 2020 have hope of recovering? Do you feel like we could get back to each other again after all of that? Because it's
I
been a few years, and I don't really see a lot of that being repaired yet.
Yet is the word there. Yet.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that if we can get to a place again, meeting in that middle ground, whenever, if or when we can, it's like having the conversations like, look, we have differences, but we are family, right?
Mhm.
Even if I think you're nuts, I think you're crazy, but you're still my family. And before the world got nuts, you didn't seem that nuts. So maybe we can, like, begin to have a conversation in a different way, right? Even if it's like we're sending funny memes, it's like, can we just start again? Or can we just maybe take this slow? We
Right.
don't talk about certain things that upset us,
Mhm.
but maybe we can connect on a different level.
Well, I mean, I really hope that it goes that way, because right now it just seems like, boom, people are just separated. It seems like everybody found their own groups outside of what they were connected to before. And it seems like that's where their alliance is. And so that's why I wonder if there is a point where people will come back together again, or was this maybe meant to be where people were meant to find different groups now and move on?
I don't, that's, I don't know. I don't know. Like, is that where we're supposed to be? I think, again, as a human race, we are meant to care for ourselves and care for others. I can just say it is my hope that we can get to a place of healing eventually. But I do believe it will take a long time. And it comes with a different understanding, even just that little step. And that's what I do share with my clients. Can you just start like, okay, instead of this person is this and this person is this person's a father, just like I am,
Yeah.
right? And we have differences, but we're both concerned about our kids,
Mhm.
right? Or we're both like, something. And it's just like we have to start seeing people as people again,
Ex-
not what the media wants us to think of,
ex-
like they're evil, they're evil. It's like, no, it's like we're individuals all striving to just
good
try
point.
to make our lives a little bit better.
It's about finding that common ground, like we talked about
Finding
earlier.
that common ground.
We're at Comic Con with the guy and finding the common ground. And I guess that's what it comes down to when it comes to us human beings. That's always going to be, even if you look in the animal kingdom, like my dog, if a dog is barking, she'll bark alongside the dog. They found a common ground, even though they may be barking at each other 5 minutes before, they'll find that common ground. Yeah, I
That's a
guess.
good analogy, actually. It's a very good analogy.
It,
And where I hope that we end up. I remember, like, like in the 80s or 90s, like you had like your Republican friend or your Democrat friend, and you have a debate, and you're like, oh, you're an idiot. Okay, let's just go have a beer,
yeah.
right? But they're still your friend, and that's what I mean is like individuals. If we can begin to connect with them or just see the humanity in them and realize like, well, they definitely have a different perspective than me for different reasons.
Mhm.
But like, how about, I could just try to be kind with the individuals that are in my life. We can't change other people. We can't,
Sure. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
someone has to want to change for themselves. But it's so even with, when I meet with individuals that are on a different political spectrum, and I can tell, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, look, like, how about like we just all take a break from the
Yeah.
news, from this, and
Mm.
and we just start on a journey of self care.
Yes.
Like, go
Exactly.
out with your buddies, go do this, go do that, and just focus more on the things that you can control.
Right. And let's find that common ground and move
Find
together.
that common ground.
Provided that these are your right, your tribe, your right people. Because I don't believe in hanging out with people who are not your right tribe. They have their own tribe. I feel like it's not that there's anything wrong with them per se. It's just that you need to hang out with like-minded people, and I can hang out with like-minded people. We can be civil to each other when we are, in social situations. But in at the end of the day, don't we all want to hang out with people who are kind of similar to us and have a lot of the
Yes.
same interests, right?
Oh, yes, yes, absolutely. I guess I'm speaking more in terms of like exactly what you said. I can be civil.
Mhm.
I can be civil with you. I can interact with you.
Mhm.
Right? Things are different than they used to be. Very different. But I can still be kind.
Yeah. Mhm.
I can still, and sometimes like if someone is willing to listen respectfully,
Yes.
and there's no yelling or so, I do believe that a middle ground could be possible. And I know, like, I'm going to say, yeah, everybody take a deep breath because most people are like, no, it's not. I can't have these conversations. It's like with individuals who are willing to listen to a different perspective.
Right.
And that would, be important. It's like, well, we have to start listening to one another a little bit at a time. But yeah, you're right. If you can't, you can't. And it's going back to that I choose me and I have to protect myself. And if I feel that someone is toxic, I can't be around them because we have to protect our own peace, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But if there isn't any of that, and someone is on a different political party than you or whatever, and you're
Yeah.
being kind to each other, yes, it's okay. Yes, yes, you can work together. Yes, you can do this.
Well, see,
Absolutely.
back in the day, we did, like you said, back in the day, you were Republican, you were Democrat. It didn't matter. Have a couple of arguments, over a few
Sure.
beer, but then you get back and you just get back to what you were doing and who you are to each other. And
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly.
2020 changed everything on so many levels, and that's why I said
Hmm.
about the fracturing of society. And the weird thing about this is that it wasn't just something that happened in one country or two countries. This happened across the globe. It's a global problem. And I have clients that I deal with, like from New Zealand, Australia. It's like it was everywhere, and it's all the same story. This is what happened to me here, and this is what
Hmm.
happened to me in United States, this would happen to me in
Mhm.
Mexico. It's all the
Mhm.
same story, and it was so devastating. It feels like that fracture. You're right though. Yet, it's not. We're not there yet, but there is hope, especially with people like you out there who are offering these wonderful services to help people with their mental health issues and their issues in
Well, there are
general.
people like yourself too that offer guidance,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
even ourselves, like we can only help, someone, one at a time or a little bit at a time, but um, and we just do what we can. And so, like I said, sometimes that just means I'm going to be good to myself. I'm
Hmm.
going to, protect
Yeah,
my peace, protect my tribe, as you said, right? And people can have different opinions, but as long as you are sending me funny memes and as long as you're funny and you're making me feel
true.
better about myself, yes, you can hang around. Anything beyond that,
Yeah.
bye bye.
Yeah, right, exactly. As long as if you're open-minded, I've seen this before. Two people, political opposites. One person has points, the other person has points, but both minds are open. It's a great conversation. But when
Hmm.
you have closed minds trying to discuss this, you have a disaster. And then
Right.
everybody ends up pissed off. So unless you have an open mind, you probably shouldn't be entering into situations like that or
Yes.
conversations like that, right?
Yes. I just think we need to heal, and 2020 did change the world, and we weren't ready or designed for it, but like we're finding our way a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
But if nothing else, I think that what we went through illuminated or brought to light the problems that we still have to address.
Right.
That we thought that we didn't have to address,
Yeah.
still there, and we have to just kind of work a little bit at a time to get to a place where we feel better.
I love that you still have hope after everything. I mean, you're no different from the rest of us. We all went through what we went through in 2020. You still have the hope. You're offering your services, what you know to work. And you're putting your books out there. You're out there and you're speaking to people and trying to guide them gently to helping themselves. And you're putting out a good message. And that's
Thank
all
you so much.
we can do, right? So, you have another book. Didn't you write another book? You have another one coming out?
I am in the process of formulating. Can you still hear me? I just tapped my thing. Formulating, and so it's kind of it might be within the Marvel universe again. It might be something like that. That's always fun. I was toying with the idea of writing about complex PTSD related to narcissism,
Oh, okay.
because again, that is more prolonged distress. And so I think that we need to become more aware of specifically complex PTSD and what that kind of distress or um, how it affects us.
Mhm. Wow, that
Because
sounds
it really does.
fascinating. I can't wait for that book to come out, and you'll have to come back on the podcast, and we'll discuss it once you finish that one. But I'm sure you'll probably be doing a lot of promotion. I'll have to, find a way to fit you in there at the time
Yeah.
the book comes out.
So
Are
if,
your
if I may, I see in the comments like for email for me that is from Osher. That's the hospital where I work at. I'd like to provide another email if I can.
okay?
So that's just my name. So it's like Dr. Suzana Flores. So that's DrSuzanaflores at Gmail. So that's more for my private practice or book signings or anything. It's more of my non hospital affiliated email. So I just
Right.
wanted to throw that out.
Okay. Yeah, because on your YouTube channel, if any of you want to go to her YouTube channel, you have all the links in there to your website, to your
That works too.
Instagram,
Mhm.
and everything is on there. And I saw, how long ago was that TED Talks that I saw of yours?
That the TED Talk, which okay, so the TED Talk is called "Untamed: What Wolverine Teaches Us About Rage,"
Hmm.
and again, it's in defense of anger.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a great experience too. So that was a few years ago, about 3, 4 years now,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, that was a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, I advise all of.
Nerve wracking, but it was a great experience.
Mhm. Okay, it looks like Ninja here has. Yeah, she's got the link. So yeah, she's my mod in here. I've got the best mods. They're all. Um, Do you also, like, work with younger people, like, teenagers and things like that, or is it just adults only?
Usually 16 and above.
16 and over? Okay, that's good to know because some people are dealing, like I said, with that trauma with their, children from mental health issues due to the 2020 and even other stuff, just it's not sometimes they had the issues and then 2020 just kind of made it more intense, just pushed it over the top. So, yeah, it's good to know. I'm just trying to get as much information out there to the public because this will also be on replay, so people will be watching it, for forever. But I really feel that what you do is so important. That's why I wanted to have you on the podcast and have people be more aware of it than they already are, because I know you have a lot of people who follow you already. But I just wanted to bring my community to, the awareness of you because I love you to pieces. We've been friends for a long time. We always have great
Mhm.
combos. And yeah, so I want to thank you so much for coming on here. And uh,
Oh, thank
wait,
you so much. No, thank you for the opportunity.
yeah.
And yes, just like right now, it's like I've always enjoyed our talks. Yeah, and
Hmm.
I think we are an example of two individuals who might be on different parts of this, different sides of the spectrum, and we can always speak respectfully.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There was somebody in the chat here a while back asked for your astrological placements. So you want to give that?
Yeah, that's fine. I am on the cusp between Scorpio and Sag, right? So friends who all, right?
Yeah.
But if someone goes too far, they will, be out of there as well. Just like I was saying about the boundaries.
Right.
It has definitely um, been wonderful having that placement, and also it's very challenging. So I always say like you have like the fieriest of the water signs, right? And
Mhm.
you have a fire sign, right? So you could only imagine I've gotten in like a whole lot of trouble with my mouth, right?
Right. Well,
and
I totally
and
understand because I have Mercury in Sagittarius, so it just
right,
things blurred out.
yeah,
We talked about this when we first met, and the Scorpio, and that's what gives you the depth and the emotion, and it's a really good mix, especially for you. And glad you're
yeah.
on
I,
Earth.
I just learned to add a little bit of honey, like like it's like this bluntness, like blah, right? It's like, well, like, it could be me, but maybe you do this, or something, you have to add a
Our
little bit of
our
sugar in
big
that.
foot is in our mouth. We know that Sagittarius
Exactly.
energy. It's crazy. But I mean, thank God you're on this earth. That's all I can say is that you've helped so many people and you'll help
Thank you so much.
more people. And I will get in touch with you to try that therapy that you're talking about. Remember, we talked about doing the trade off. So definitely will. We'll set something up. I know you're busy. I've been pretty busy too. And everybody in the chat's really busy trying to add your stuff in there. So it's all good. But yeah, Susie, my dear, I will let you go. Get on with your
Okay.
evening, and best of luck to you. And
Thank you
we'll
so
have
much.
you back on when that other book is ready to go.
Thank you. Thank you, love it. And this was a lot of fun. Anytime.
Oh,
You
I'm
take
glad
care.
you did it. You can just X out in the corner there. That's how you sign yourself out.
Sounds good. All right.
All
Have a
right.
good evening.
Take care. Bye bye. So, how did y'all? Now I get to get back to the chat here. Oh, Susan Fabian, she says great. Okay. Um, Thank you all. I can't keep Truth Seeker. Oh, Efren is in here too, and I see. Oh, Brenda Tarot. Marky Mark. I missed all of you guys, but I know Mark had to go. Any of you want to follow Mark over to the live? I believe he's doing a live with Marley's Tarot. So you can go catch him over there because we're ready to wrap up over here. Hi, Scott. And I hope you guys really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this conversation with Dr. Suzana. I think I spelled her name incorrectly in the title. I'll fix that. Anyway, yeah, you guys go over to Instagram. You can follow her there. You can check out her YouTube channel. It's all Dr. Suzana Flores. Once you punch it in, it just comes up. So you can get in touch with her because she doesn't have a website and everything else. But wow, that was an intense conversation. It always is with her and I whenever we start talking about uh oh, Linda Lamoureux. Hey, how you doing? Glad to see you in the chat as well. Yes, Ninja's advertising Marley and Mark's live. That's probably already started over there because I think they were starting at 8 o'clock Eastern time. So, yeah, you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening. I am going to go and rest. And yeah, I shall, see you guys. I'm not sure if there's going to be a podcast next weekend, honestly. It is Easter Sunday. So most people are going to be, busy with their dinners and their family and so forth. But hi, Emily. And so I don't know if anything. Maybe it'll just be a quick pop on here, but I wouldn't count on it. So enjoy your Easter weekend and Good Friday and all of that. I mean, the regular readings will be out next week. The bonus reads for April as well as the weeklies. But yes, Ninja, I will be resting. I will try and get some rest. I mean, it's still early here, so I'm gonna try and shut her down and take it easy. But I want to thank you all for coming here, and make sure to thank the amazing mods, Miss Ninja and I'm Hungry Now. They do such a wonderful job here in the chat to keep everything going. And thank you so much, Ninja, for putting out Dr. Suzana Flores information. And yeah, I don't know what else to say other than have yourself a great rest of the night, no matter where you are. I saw somebody who was here from Ireland, but it's super late in Ireland. So you're probably off to bed, but thanks for joining us. Thank you, Amanda, for coming in. And yeah, I'll see you guys very, very soon. Okay. Take care. Much love. Mwah! Have a good one. Star Lordess signing off. Bye bye.